Monks are broken! Hey everyone, welcome to Constructed Chaos. Today we're going to be taking a look at everything to do with monks and how playing one in D&D 5e can take your combat and roleplay in a whole new direction. The monk carries with it a certain level of artistic flair that isn't necessarily found so easily in other D&D classes. Playing one in 5e gives you the chance to play a character that hones their skills to the absolute pinnacle of perfection. Whether your goal is to pummel the enemy with endless attacks while supporting the rest of your party, to harness the ultimate power of the body, mind, and soul, or to lurk in the shadows waiting for the perfect chance to strike, this class provides an answer. That said, let's jump in and figure out exactly what a monk can do. As we begin creating your monk, you'll typically want to make sure that they receive a healthy dose of dexterity and wisdom. As you might imagine, a monk's battlefield capabilities rely very heavily on how they're able to maneuver nimbly around their opponents, armed with the knowledge of knowing exactly when and where to strike. I'll be using D&D Beyond to help guide you through the process of building your monk, but feel free to use the good old pen and paper if that's what you prefer. Our fledgling monk begins at level 1 as they leave their monastery master or place of training. They have a 1d8 hit die, which means we'll start with the maximum 8, plus our constitution modifier as our starting hit point total. Your monk won't be getting any proficiency in armor, but you probably won't be needing any of that. You will, however, get proficiency in simple weapons, short swords, and a set of artisan's tools or a musical instrument. In addition to this, you'll receive proficiency in strength and dexterity saving throws, as well as your choice of 2 out of religion, history, insight, stealth, athletics, and acrobatics. Picking your proficiencies will largely depend on the type of monk that you want to play. Did your character have a semi-religious background, or perhaps were they so focused on training their body to the utmost that they had no time for anything else? Knowing your character's background will go a long way in helping you make these decisions. Once you figure that out, your monk gains unarmored defense, which gives them an AC of 10 plus their dexterity and wisdom modifiers, as long as they're not wearing a shield or armor. I've always really loved this because it goes to show that armor class doesn't necessarily have anything to do with armor itself. Monks are so good because they have the ability to dodge and deflect blows, and that is what gives them such a high AC. We'll also gain martial arts at first level, which gives our monks some special benefits as it pertains to monk weapons and unarmed strikes, again, so long as you're not wearing armor or a shield. These benefits include being able to use our dexterity instead of our strength when we use our monk weapon or unarmed strikes, the ability to use a d4 die if we so choose for our unarmed strikes and monk weapon, and last, we get to make an extra attack as a bonus action so long as we used the attack action on our turn. By the way, that d4 may not feel like much right now, but it will grow to be something greater later on as you level up. For right now though, it might be a good idea to use something like a quarterstaff as your monk weapon, so you can get that 1d8 damage and still use 1d4 for your unarmed strikes. Speaking of more powerful, at second level you can choose an optional class feature called Dedicated Weapon that was introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. You see, normally you can only choose from a short sword or simple melee weapons as your monk weapon, but this optional feature allows you to choose from any weapon so long as it is a simple or martial weapon that you're proficient with that doesn't have the heavy or special properties. Since our monk class doesn't gain us proficiency outside of anything that would be considered a traditional monk weapon, we'll have to look to gain that proficiency from some other source, whether it be our race or a feat or something else. But I can only imagine how cool it would be for our monk to use something unconventional, like a battle axe that they twirl around effortlessly, allowing the momentum to carry them through their foes as they slash their way to victory. Some other big features pop up for us at second level. We'll gain a 10-foot movement speed bonus so long as we're not wearing armor or a shield, and we'll gain access to our all-important key points. There should be a chart somewhere on the screen that tells you exactly how many key points you get per level, but an important thing to note is that we'll start off with 2 and get as many as 20 by the end of our build. These points will afford us all the typical monk stuff, like Flurry of Blows, which allows us to make 2 attacks as a bonus action, so long as we use the attack action on our turn. Patient Defense, which allows us to use the dodge action as a bonus action, and Step of the Wind, which allows us to use the dash or disengage actions as a bonus action while doubling our jump distance. At 3rd level, you'll need to pick your monk's monastic tradition. These will unlock abilities that augment the typical base monk class depending on which subclass you choose. Since that has such a big influence, it'll probably be a good time to review that now. Currently in 5th edition, these are the traditions that we have access to, but Wizards may introduce other monastic traditions in the future with more content that they create for Dungeons & Dragons. That said, as I touch on each of these subclasses briefly, I'll make sure to link any videos that go into more detail. First up, we have the Way of the Astral Self. Those that walk this path believe their body to be an illusion. Their essence instead is contained within their ki. And as such, as they level up, they unlock different stages of their astral form that they use for various intriguing abilities. Hailing from Matt Mercer's World of Exandria, the Way of the Cobalt Soul believes that knowledge is the pinnacle of power, and as such they use information to debilitate and mystify their foes, along with their quick reflexes. As the name implies, the Way of the Drunken Master utilizes unpredictable and erratic movements as a result of being intoxicated to land attacks on their enemies. Though the attacks are usually flavored in a comical sense, they're still somewhat surprisingly effective. Best described as something akin to the Avatar animated series, the Way of the Four Elements harnesses the power of the elemental planes, and as such, it's one of the only monk subclasses that gains access to traditional spellcasting. Warriors of the Way of the Kinsei devote themselves fully to mastery of a certain weapon that they can then channel their ki into to make it stronger and sharper. Think something along the lines of a samurai. Another option for your monastic tradition is the Way of the Long Death. This particular subclass turns your monk into a tank in that it gains you hit points whenever you defeat enemies, and also benefits a lot from being up close and personal to the creatures you're fighting. That said, it is known for being one of the less potent of the monk subclasses, so I don't recommend this unless you're absolutely sure that you want to try it out. Way of Mercy monks bring a unique flavor to the class by adding healing and necrotic abilities to their punches. They are usually regarded as bringers of life and death. The Way of the Open Hand is probably the most true to form as far as what people would normally imagine a monk to look like in D&D, and for good reason. Monks of this tradition train themselves to master the art of hand-to-hand combat, gaining some abilities for deadly blows and healing along the way. If you want to play a ninja, the Way of Shadow would probably be the best pick for you. Monks of this tradition value deceit and stealth above all. Using their ki abilities, they're able to manipulate shadow to move unseen and strike an opponent whenever they're most vulnerable. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Sun Soul monks are able to channel the light of their own souls into their attacks and defense. Through intense meditation, they are able to unlock the indomitable light within. And last, Way of the Ascendant Dragon monks pull forth the power of their namesake through their ki to magnify the strength of their unarmed strikes, to soar through the skies, and to rain down elemental fury on their opponents. That said, do keep in mind that this content is still under development, so it's entirely possible that the name or some of the details might change. If that's the case, then I'll probably just take it out of the video whenever Wizards releases it. Moving on from subclasses, we'll also gain the Deflect Missiles ability at 3rd level. This will allow us to either deflect or potentially catch a ranged attack that has been waged on us. Additionally, if we are able to catch that projectile, we can spend a ki point and our reaction to make an attack using that projectile as if it were a monk weapon. But we might not be done yet if you decide to take the optional 3rd level feature called Ki Fueled Attack. Admittedly, this one doesn't change very much, but it does allow your monk to make a bonus action attack even if you used your action for something else by just spending a ki point. Whew, that was a lot. But now we can finally move on to 4th level where we unlock Slow Fall. This ability will allow us to reduce the amount of damage we take from falling by 5 times our monk's level. This doesn't seem too important, but it'll definitely get a lot better for us later, and you'll see why. While we're here at 4th level, let's talk about yet another optional feature called Quickened Healing. This ability, just like the last one, doesn't do a whole lot, but it does allow you to regain hit points equal to your martial arts die plus your proficiency bonus. This could be actually pretty useful if you have some extra key points lying around before you take a short rest and you want to burn them so you don't have to use up your hit die on healing yourself back up to full health. We now unlock one of the most powerful and broken features of Monk at 5th level. Stunning Strike allows us to force our target to make a Constitution saving throw against being stunned until our next turn by spending a single key point when we land an attack. This, combined with the fact that we get an extra attack at 5th level and we can use Flurry of Blows for 2 more, a total of 4 attacks, means that we can use Stunning Strike potentially 4 times in one turn. There's a really good chance that you could stun somebody off of 4 Constitution saving throws. And if you do stun one person on one of the earlier saving throws, you can move on to another enemy since they can't take reactions and try and stun them. This attack is broken and could be completely debilitating for your combat encounter, depending on how many stunning strikes they actually land. I've definitely found myself as the DM in a few situations where I was frustrated because it felt like the monk was running the game and not me. This does get a little bit weaker with a larger number of enemies, but can still be pretty effective even in the late game if it can just stun 1 or 2 of them. And for our last optional feature at 5th level, we gain access to Focused Aim. You'll gain the ability to spend your key points to help bolster your attack rolls if you miss, thusly turning your attack into a hit. After that, at 6th level, our unarmed strikes become magical so that we can get past any non-magical resistances, and our movement bonus goes from 10 feet to 15 feet. 7th level grants us the evasion feature, which allows us to take no damage instead of half damage when succeeding on a dexterity saving throw against an attack. We can also end the charmed or frightened condition as an action via the 7th level ability Stillness of the Mind. At 9th level, we get another improvement to our unarmored movement, this time allowing us to run up vertical surfaces and across water without falling during that movement. Here we see that slow fall becomes a little bit more useful because if you have a 90-foot dash, you can run up a vertical surface, drop over the other side, and take little to no fall damage as a result. That, combined with the fact that you get another movement bonus increase at 10th level, is really crazy. You have a 100-foot dash at that point. You can scale some pretty tall structures or run across some pretty big bodies of water without falling in or falling down and taking damage. Here at 10th level, our monk also becomes immune to disease and poison. This point pretty much marks the start of a theme wherein our monk gets abilities based on defense, resistances, and roleplay. For example, 13th level sees us gain the ability to understand all spoken languages and be understood by anything that can at least speak one language, via an ability called Tongue of the Sun and Moon. Our monk then gains a Diamond Soul at 14th level that gives them proficiency in all saving throws and allows them to reroll a failed saving throw by expending a key point. Our unarmored movement bonus also increases here from 20 feet to 25 feet. We then gain a Timeless Body to go along with our Diamond Soul at 15th level. This removes any restraints as far as our old age is concerned when it comes to our physical ability, as well as keeping us from being magically aged and removing our dependence on substance like food and water. This one is mostly for roleplay, as you might imagine, and isn't a very useful 15th level feature. Again, a theme that continues from this point, except for the next one. At 18th level, our monk gains the ability to become invisible for a full minute by spending 4 key points as an action. While in this state, we'll be resistant to every type of damage aside from force, and we'll have the option to spend 8 additional key points to cast the Astral Projection spell. Also at 18th level, our movement bonus is going to increase from 25 to our final 30 feet of bonus movement speed. And really, it's kind of the last useful thing that the monk class has to offer. The Capstone ability for Monk, called Perfect Self, basically allows you to regain 4 key points if you enter a combat encounter and have none. Monk is broken, but I feel like they deserved a little bit more than this for their Capstone ability. Leveling up all the way to level 20 is a pretty tough feat in most campaigns. So I could see where this might be useful if you're running a lot of back-to-back encounters where, it's the end of the game, you're running out of key points, and you just need 4 more to do the last little bit of damage. But considering all your key points come back on a short rest anyway, I feel like this isn't much of a boon. That said, Monk is still pretty broken in my opinion, and a super fun class to play. Maybe you would toy with the idea of multi-classing if you're a little bit more experienced so you don't have to deal with the 20th level Capstone ability being such a letdown. But I think that covers just about everything. If I missed anything, if you think I was wrong about anything, if I messed something up or mispronounced something, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to smash the subscribe and like button with a flurry of blows. And until next time, go out there and make some chaos.